I'm really excited about Shabbat UK, and we have a wonderful weekend of epic events lined up. But Shabbat UK shouldn't just be about the razzmatazz and the gala activities. It should also be an opportunity for us to renew our commitment to Shemirat Shabbat, and it provides us with an impetus to learn and review some of the halchot of Shabbat. I want to begin by considering the mitzvah of hadlakat nerot, the mitzvah to light Shabbat candles, though, as we will discover, there is no requirement that it is particularly candles that are lit. In the 5th perek of Hilchot Shabbat, the Rambam indicates that lighting Shabbat candles is a function of Oneg Shabbat, the requirement that we make Shabbat an enjoyable and pleasurable experience. But in the 30th perek, he writes that Shabbat candles are a function of Kavod Shabbat, the requirement that we honour Shabbat and give it special dignity. Clearly the Rambam believes that there are two aspects to the mitzvah of Shabbat lights. But how are we to understand the relationship between Kavod and Oneg in the context of this mitzvah? The Aruch HaShulchan suggests that there are two parallel mitzvot within the context of the nerot Shabbat. One is a requirement that lamps should be lit at the Shabbat dining table in order to give Kavod, respect and dignity to the Shabbat meal. In the same way that we would make sure that the dining room was well lit if we were hosting an important guest for a meal, we also have to make sure that it is well lit when we are honouring Shabbat. The second mitzvah is a requirement that there should be lighting throughout the house on Shabbat. This is a function of the concept of Oneg. Shabbat lights throughout the house ensure that one does not mar the pleasure of Shabbat by tripping over furniture or bumping into people. A further explanation of the roles of Kavod and Oneg in the context of the Shabbat lights is attributed variously to Reb Chaim Brisker and to his son, known as the Griz. They suggested that the requirement of Oneg, that Shabbat should be an enjoyable and pleasurable experience, means that every home should have sufficient lighting on Friday nights to ensure that people don't trip or stumble. Accordingly, if a home is exposed to sufficient outside lighting, if, for example, there are bright street lights right outside the windows, there would be no need to light Shabbat candles. However, there is also a requirement of Kavod Shabbat, to give honour and respect to Shabbat, and this demands that the Shabbat candles be lit prior to the onset of Shabbat, as a mode of according respect to the approaching Sabbath. Thus, even if there was already sufficient light in the home, it would still be necessary to light Shabbat candles as a function of Kavod Shabbat. A further nafkamina, according to Reb Chaim's explanation, would be if a person accepted Shabbat early and then instructed a shaliach to light Shabbat candles on their behalf. In this case, they would fulfill the mitzvah of lighting Shabbat candles as a function of Oneg Shabbat, but they would have neglected to fulfill the mitzvah as a function of Kavod Shabbat. Have a wonderful day.